Hey, everybody, this is Andrew Hutchinson with HawgBeat.com, the Arkansas site and the Rivals Network. The Razorbacks are gearing up for another big SEC road series, this time heading down to Baton Rouge for 3 games against LSU. The Tigers are just 6-12 in SEC play, but they're coming off of a huge road series win down in Oxford against Ole Miss. And to get more insight on LSU, I am thrilled to be joined now by David Folse of TigerDetails, the LSU site in our network. David, appreciate you taking the time to talk. How are you?
Doing great, Andrew. You got the name right. We worked on it. Good
There
job.
we go. Good. Practice makes perfect. Let's start with that Ole Miss series. I think that caught a lot of people by surprise. What were the Tigers able to do to take 2 of 3 against the Rebels?
Well, this team is a walking bag of contradictions, really. No one's ever questioned the talent. It was just, are they grown up enough and will they do it? This team is talented enough to take 2 out of 3 against Ole Miss on the road, a number 12 Ole Miss team that many people say had the pitching to go to Omaha, but then they're also talented enough to lose a 9-1 lead on Sunday. And if you ask LSU fans, they'll tell you a 9-1 lead with 2 outs in the 8th inning on Sunday. I mean, they'll tell you they feel like they lost the series, honest to God, because of how it went down on Sunday. And that has nothing to do with, LSU fans expect Omaha every year and all that kind of stuff. It was that bad of a loss. So it's going to be fascinating to see how this team bounces back. Andrew, the crazy part about this team, and you and I have talked about it when we've texted before, LSU could beat Arkansas or LSU could get the doors blown off. So you really don't know. This is a team that's just like this, and you don't know where they're going to be on the hill, on the hill of emotions for this weekend. It should be a fascinating weekend to watch.
And you talked about that game 3. I mean, they were up 9-1 in the 8th inning, and then in a blink of an
With
eye,
2 outs.
yeah, and then a blink of an eye, it was tied, and then they ended up losing in the bottom of the ninth. I mean, what happened? I mean, was it a bullpen collapse or just a comedy of errors, or what happens?
It wasn't a comedy of errors, so we at least can eliminate that. You can make the case Palmineri left Javen Coleman in too long. Just once momentum gets going. Andrew, you've been at games before at Baum where it's, 1 or 2 hits and then things get allergic and then it just, oh my God, where did 4 or 5 runs come from? And that's just what happened. It just kept piling on each other. The crowd got louder. This was the first weekend that LSU was at. These kids were in an SEC actual atmosphere. So, I mean, it just kind of just got out of hand and it just got out of their hands way too quickly.
And now,
But remember, this is still the same team that took 2 out of 3 from Ole Miss on Thursday and Friday.
exactly. Now, before I get too much further into our conversation, I want to remind everyone that HawgBeat's baseball coverage this year is brought to you by CJ's Butcher Boy Burgers. The Arkansas staple has locations in Fayetteville and Russellville. It's a great spot to eat before or after you go in to watch Arkansas play, or really anytime. So give them a shout. They are a great sponsor for us. If you could support them, that would be awesome. Now back to LSU. I mean, you kind of touched on it, how they've been just up and down all year. I mean, this was a preseason top 10 team, and now they're kind of fighting for their postseason lives. Has there been any particular thing that's caused these issues? I mean, it seems like it's really kind of been surprising to everybody, at least on the outside, that these issues have been there.
Well, at the start of the season, it was and we'll say start of conference play, because preseason play they were fine. Start of conference play, the bats just went silent. Mississippi State shut them down. Vanderbilt embarrassed them. Tennessee, LSU blew a lead. Then it was the bullpen, and then it was, Jaden Hill goes down, and then now they can't find a third starter. So it's always something. It seems like it's very much whack-a-mole, where it's okay, you get the hitting fixed. Now, the starting pitching fails. Okay, get the starting pitching fixed. Now the bullpen fails. And it just seems like something is always coming up for this team. So that's where we're at.
And you mentioned Jaden Hill there. He's a guy that Arkansas fans are interested in. He's from Ashdown. He's an Arkansas guy. Projected top 10 pick possibly. The injury probably affects that. But how have they gone about fixing that rotation, finding that third starter?
Well, they don't know yet. to be honest with you. They've tried two different guys. Landon Marceau, everybody else, 2 and 3 make the move up. Landon Marceau is a bona fide ace. Don't let the win-loss record fool you. It's just the lack of run support that he gets. AJ Levis is coming off of the game of his life, a complete game, win against Ole Miss on the road. First two times that they had a third starter, they went with Blake Money, the freshman right-hander from Tennessee, excuse me. And he got roughed up, gave up a ton of just 2-run homers. LSU was allergic to the 2-run homer in Blake Money's first two starts. Then Will Helmers got to start Sunday, went 3 innings, looked fine, but then pulmonary for some reason pulled him. And then, that's when all hell broke loose. It all depends on the third starter on what happens this weekend. If LSU gets quality starts, and let's say, just for the sake of this conversation, they beat Arkansas the first two, and they don't have to go to a Devin Fontenot, their closer. Devin could start Sunday. It's going to be very, everybody's heard the expression Johnny Holstaff. That's what it's going to be, and it's going to be whatever left over from Friday and Saturday.
And you also mentioned, Marceau and Levis, those guys have put up really good numbers. You mentioned the win-loss record, maybe not great, but they do have really respectable ERAs. The other stats are good. What are they? What kind of pitchers are Marceau and Levis, and what should Arkansas fans expect to see from those two guys?
Well, you're not going to see Jaden Hill. You're not going to see Jack Leiter, and you're not going to see Kumar Rocker. It is not going to be a swing and miss, double-digit strikeout kind of thing. For Marceau, he's going to go 90 to 93, maybe, it all depends. And he's going to spot the fastball, and he's going to, just try to get you out with the curveball. But for Marceau, it's going to be ground balls. I'm going to ground ball you to death. For Levis, it's a little bit of the opposite. Those a little softer. He's got a little cut changeup kind of thing. And it's going to be fly balls. The more fly balls you see from Levis, the better. But Levis is not going to strike out a ton of people. It's going to be, we're going to make you put the ball in play, and hopefully we're going to field our position well. And hopefully, again, if that doesn't eat into too much of your pitch count, they'll be able to go deep in the game, like it was with Levis on Friday against Ole Miss.
And you mentioned Fontenot as a their closer and everything. He's obviously really good. What does that bullpen look like? What's kind of your confidence level? Like, if LSU gets to the 6th inning with the lead or the 7th inning with the lead, what's the confidence level for LSU right now?
Well, you're asking a guy who just watched a team get to the confidence level of an 8-1 or an 8-run lead with 2 outs in the 8th inning. So it really all depends. It's really flip a coin with this bullpen in terms of, you could see the Fontenot that we saw Thursday, where he's going to go 3 innings and shut Ole Miss down, including loading the bases with nobody out and still getting out of it. Or you could see the Fontenot that gets smoked like he did against South Carolina. You really don't know. When they're on, they're really, really good. But you ask the coaching staff, they don't know if they're going to be on. They just really don't. This is it's a young, I keep saying this, and I know we're about to start into May, but it's still a young team this team has no identity, Andrew, I guess is the best way to figure it out. They hit a lot of home runs, but then they'll go 2-3 games without getting the ball out the infield. And then they'll still be 4th in the country. I know Arkansas is up there with home runs as well, but you just don't know. I mean, this could come in this weekend. It could be a packed house at the box. The governor just lifted the mask mandate. Stadium capacity's up to 75%. It could be a box that's rocking, and this team could ride that wave and smoke Arkansas. You just don't know. Or they could come in, and Arkansas is the number 1 team in the country for a reason, jump on them early, and they could tuck their tail between their legs. Like, it's a very difficult team to figure out. I know I keep harping on the same thing, but that's the case.
And I feel like these series are always kind of weird and wild. You never know what's going to happen. LSU usually finds some weird way to pull it out. The Rally Possum game comes to mind, and
Alex Box magic. That's
exactly,
all. Yeah,
exactly. And so moving over, you mentioned the bats a little bit. I was looking at the stats. It looks like a couple of freshmen are leading the team in batting average. Dylan Cruz was obviously a heralded guy. and Trey Morgan is also having a good year. What are those guys? What did they do well? And has Dylan Cruz maybe even exceeded expectations?
It's hard to exceed expectations when you're, like the guy and they expect you to be Babe Ruth coming in. But he really has. For a freshman to come in and just look like, I guess the best way to describe it is it looks like he's been there for 20 years and he's signed a long-term contract with your team and he's just a veteran hitter. He's a freshman. You stick him in right field, nothing. You don't have to worry about anything. He's tried in the leadoff spot, and that's worked. He's going to hit double-digit home runs this year. He's the prototypical, if you built it in a factory, 5-tool player. He's going to do everything, but it seems like he's really found a home in the 2-hole, and that's due in large part to the emergence of Trey Morgan. Everybody knew about Trey Morgan's bat, his glove coming out of school, and he's provided some, Sports Center top 10 moments in, at first base, but he's just a consistent hitter. At the top of the order, you want somebody who's just going to get on base, and he's going to take a lot of pitches, and he's going to see a lot of pitches, and he's just going to foul a ton of stuff off. And at the end of the game, he's going to have gone 2 for 4, driven in a run, scored 3 runs. And you're like, oh yeah, Trey Morgan did have a great game, but you don't realize that until you look at the box score. But he's the best table setter for this team, and it sets it up for the power behind them, the K Doties of the world, the Gavin Dugases of the world. But it's the problem with this lineup has been the bottom of the order. You can make a case that LSU is pretty much batting with 6.5 guys who can really hit in an SEC. Can't win SEC games with that. Alex Milazzo has struggled. Whoever's at second base, if it's Drew Bianco, has struggled. It's just this team struggles to field 9 batters in a lineup each week or each game.
Well, I think that's all I got. I mean, you've given a really great rundown of what Arkansas fans should expect. I know Arkansas, as I said, they get a little bit nervous when LSU comes on the schedule because it always seems to go the other way. But Arkansas riding that #1 ranking, and they have played really well away from home. One of the more incredible stats that I know is Arkansas's 12-3 against top 20 teams, and all of those are away from Fayetteville. So could be the year Arkansas could finally maybe steal a series down in Baton Rouge, but who knows? Again, I appreciate you joining me, David. And if y'all want to check out his stuff, you check out TigerDetails.com, the LSU rival site. They do a phenomenal job covering the Tigers in all facets. So appreciate you taking the time, and hope to maybe catch up with you down the road.
Hey, let's talk come Hoover time, man.
Sounds good.